There's an old saying in VALORANT that everybody seems to believe. Skins equal wins. I know it sounds crazy, but some skins just seem to hit their shots more. Like the new Sentinels Sen Set Classic, available in the store today. I mean, we all saw what the old Sen Classic was able to pull off. I didn't see any other team's classics hitting like that. Imagine what the new one's capable of. But how could that be? It's just a different cosmetic, right? The stats are the same. You're just getting a different paint job, some new animations, different sounds, nothing that would actually make you perform better. In fact, you could argue that skins could actually make you play worse because they're distracting. But if that's so, why does it feel like you magically transform into a headshot machine with certain skins? Well, that's why we wanted to take a deep dive into the skin game, to find out once and for all if VALORANT is actually pay to win, and see if the only thing holding you back from going pro is your empty wallet. So let's first establish any physical benefits a skin could possibly have. I think we can rule out the art on the skin as being a benefit. It doesn't really do anything to make the gun stronger. In fact, I'd argue that it would actually be a negative, since it's visually distracting and could cause you to lose your focus on your crosshair. I guess you could argue that the ADS sight might be different, but honestly, Riot has done such a great job in making the ADS sight so minimal, I don't really see a difference. The only thing I could see as being a physical benefit from skins is the actual tracers. Some skins have tracers that are more noticeable, at least to me. For example, the Reaver Vandal has these tracers that just seem to pop to me, which helps me track my spray. So that's one point in the pay to win column. But really, that's just for spraying. It doesn't explain why some skins make all your teammates talk about your one-taps. So, if it's not something physical, then it must be mental. That's why we sat down with Edgar Chekera, a sports psychologist who works in esports, helping figure out how to get players to perform their best.
So my name's Edgar Chekera, so I specialise as a sport and exercise psychologist, and I've worked with teams like Fnatic, Team Falcons, Guild, XL Esports, which is now Giant X. So I've had a range of experiences from different titles and different teams. My experience within VALORANT has been since the game basically came out, so that's 2020 to now, so around 4 years.
So let's get right to it. Do skins equal wins?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to it. So obviously on the positive side, you have this placebo that will be coming in place of, if I play with the skin, then I'll be doing well. So, it can lead to some positive self-expectations for yourself. But on the flip side, when you feel like you need it to perform well, then that could set you up for failure. If I'm gonna peel things back a little bit more, I was doing some research around what might actually lead to people thinking that skins equals more wins. I look into things like color psychology. So there's this theory called color in context, which looks at how colors that we're exposed to have different associations, we put different meanings towards them. So it could be a case where because we're exposed to a certain color, it can link to certain thoughts, certain feelings, certain actions that we engage in. For example, red is normally associated with danger, a lot of threat, but also research actually showed that it can narrow attention, so get us to actually focus more on specific things. If we look into, let's say, colors like blue, so blue compared to red, blue is something that's more tranquil, something more calm. So some research actually found that it broadened attentional fields as well, so it broadened attention. And when I've worked with people too, some people obviously talk about flow state a lot, but they'll say, I feel like I'm in the game. So I think some skins can actually have an effect on that. So it's not directly with performance, but it's indirectly through how we start interpreting the world we're in and the environment we're in and how we actually engage in the performance.
That's an interesting take. I never would have thought of something like color theory. I guess my point about the art on a skin not doing anything is actually bullshit. Who would have thought that different colors could actually subconsciously calm you down and make you play better? But what really interests me is the sound aspect of skins. It's amazing how our brains work, and how something like a bassier sound can give us more confidence. And it's not only a factor in VALORANT. The YouTube channel People Make Games made a video about the old game Wolfenstein Enemy Territory, where there were two guns that were exactly the same, but only one sounded bassier. When the developers looked at the stats, players were winning more fights with the bassier gun. They assumed that it was solely based on confidence.
They're identical, they're absolutely the same. Damage, rate of fire, reload speed, clip size, absolutely the same. And then we look at the server data, and players are getting more kills with the Thompson than the MP40. What's going on here? And the one thing we trace it to is the Thompson had bassier audio. It just sounded more powerful. So players felt more powerful, they felt more confident with it, they went for more headshots, they got more headshots, they got more kills. The players were right.
So this begs the question, how does confidence actually affect our play?
So confidence really boils down to the perceived ability that you can execute a certain outcome or execute a certain action. So confidence is a broad spectrum. You can have confidence in your peaking, confidence in shooting, confidence in your communication, decision making, and even in your team. But if I'm talking generically, sport confidence is going to be very important. When you see people who are low in confidence, it can also relate again to more anxiety and more nervousness as well when it comes to on stage. It can lead to hesitancy. It can also be impacted by trying to play it safe and not taking risks. Sometimes in a game like VALORANT, you need to take risks as well. You might not necessarily know where the opponent is, but you need to position yourself in the map so you'll be in maybe more risky positions. You need to kind of peek in places just to make sure you're there. You need to be quite confident that if I see an opponent, I can hit them, I can shoot them, I can frag out. But I also want to highlight that there's a difference between confidence and competence. You can have as much confidence as you want, but if you're not competent, if you don't actually have the ability, if you haven't actually demonstrated the skill, then you can have all the confidence in the world, but when it comes to it, you might not actually be able to execute in the same way. So there needs to be a balance of, you can be confident, but you have to be able to have the ability to show that as well at the same time.
So it sounds like confidence gives you that split-second decision-making you need in a game like VALORANT, where hesitating for just a second can mean the difference between winning a round and tilting off the face of the planet. So we've talked about the mental benefits of skins in games, but are there any negatives? I know from my own personal experience, as somebody who's been blessed with a Riot gun buddy, there's nothing that tilts me more than some annoying kid begging to use my gun. I mean, nothing takes me out of the game more than having whining in my ears when we're trying to call strats and plan out the round. So Edgar, what tips do you have for dealing with these awful teammates?
Give me skin or I block you.
Yeah, it's always a difficult one as well to try and navigate, because when it comes to playing online, I don't really have a be-all end-all answer for it, because I think you'll get grilled regardless of what you say. I could say mute them, but then obviously it's going to keep on happening. But the fact is that we don't really have much control in that. So I would say obviously focus on what you can control. So what you can't control is people's actions and people's behaviors and how people think, but you can control how you interpret the situation. So am I looking at what I can have advantages over in the situation? So what opportunities will I have from continuing to play? Do I need to look at my aim, for example, instead when I'm playing? Do I need to think about strategies? Do I want to use this as practice for lineups instead of trying to listen to the other person's comms? You can confront them, but then sometimes to a level there's no point doing it. So sometimes muting them and just focusing on your aspect, your crosshairs, your lineups, your strategies is going to be the important way moving forward.
If you want to learn more about what Edgar does, you can follow him on Twitter at psych_check or check out his website, psych-check.co.uk. He also is a contributor to psychologytoday.com, so you can find out more about what he does there as well. Also, Edgar was kind enough to put together a PDF to help you get in the proper competitive mindset so you can perform at your best. You can find it in the description below. So there you have it. There actually is something to the idea that skins equal wins. Thankfully, VALORANT isn't a straight-up pay-to-win game, but rather uses skins as a means of tricking yourself into performing better, rather than relying on buffs to stats or anything like that. So, with that in mind, it sounds like you should be buying the new Sentinels bundle, so you can hit the server with the kind of swagger somebody like Zekken or Narrate has. And if skins are going to trick your brain into playing better on the server, it must work outside of the server, right? So why not pick up a Sentinels Viper V3 Pro? So you're not only playing with the best mouse in VALORANT, but also tricking your brain into performing better with it.